I created 4 vintage theme Christmas cards for you today using Rub-Ons, Mica Stain, a die cut, and a 3D embossing folder. Hey everyone, it's Joy here. I am super excited to share these cards with you, so welcome to my channel. I'm starting with 4 pieces of 6x8 mixed media white cardstock from scrapbook.com, and I'm also using their nested stitched scallop frames. So you're going to get 2 pieces when you die cut with this, and this first die cut for some reason just didn't cut, but the other ones do great. You get that beautiful scalloped frame, and then you get that inside piece. We are going to be using both pieces for our cards today. So I am using my Platinum 6 die cut machine to die cut out all of my frames, and I'm going to just set them aside, get them organized. Like I mentioned, these are vintage theme Christmas cards. We are going to be using these gorgeous rub-ons from Simple Stories. It's the Simple Vintage Fresh Snow rub-ons, and I forgot to show you guys what they look like by themselves because I already cut them all up to create my cards. But first, let's do our mica stain on our frames. I'm using 4 different colors. So I found mica stain colors that were super close to the colors of the rub-ons. And so the 4 colors that I'm using are Winter Frost, Tree Lot, Juniper Berry, and Frosty Mint. I want these to kind of blend together. I don't mind if there's areas that are a little bit more green, some that's a little bit more blue, whatever it might be. I don't care. I just want a nice, good mix of this. Now, one of my blue colors, and I think it might be, let me see what color. It might be the Winter Frost. The sprayer stopped working on my second frame here. So I am just going to modify. I'm going to unscrew the lid and just splatter it on the background. And something that I found, because I had to do that, I did use a little bit of water to kind of get it to mix with the other color. So here I was like, oh no, and it's such a pretty blue. It feels very much like a cobalt blue. So I'm just spritzing that on. I didn't add the water on the second frame. The third and fourth frame, I got a little bit smarter. But all of them turned out gorgeous. So I'm just kind of adding here and there, but you guys can see the color. I'm going to use my heat tool to dry in between, set it aside, and work on my next one. So that first color that I sprayed was the Juniper Berry, then Tree Lot, this is Winter Frost, I believe. It could be switched with Juniper Berry, but I think it's Winter Frost. And then Frosty Mint is kind of like a cracked pistachio type color. And I just think it turned out so, so lovely. But this is where I did add a little bit of water from my distress sprayer just to get that one that I can't spray to blend with the others. You can't do this wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's going to mix how it's going to mix. I love the green in it. So I did kind of bring these back, and some of the ones that are dry, I would add more, maybe a little more green to it once I looked at it in the light, and I'm like, oh, it's a little too blue. Let me add a little spritz of green. So it's however you like it. But my whole goal, again, was to get a nice blend of the colors, have them overlap each other, have them blend a little bit because I'm spraying wet on wet. And that way they could kind of mix. And you guys, they turned out beautiful. Now for my inside pieces of that nested stitched scallop frame, we're going to do a little bit of stenciling with Walnut Stain Distress Oxide ink. I'm using a dome blender tool. You could use a blender brush here, and I'm going to go super light. Again, taking colors from the rub-on. So if you ever are feeling like you can't get a color combination together, find something that you like, whether it be a bouquet of flowers, whether it's a picture, whatever it is, and get your color combination from there. So that's what I'm doing when it comes to these cards. The stencil that I'm using is Lawn Fawn's Snowflake background stencil. And then you can see that I'm also ink blending the edges ever so lightly. I'm using a little bit of mint tape to just hold my stencil in place. This is super quick stenciling, like nothing fantastic. It doesn't even have to be perfect. So I'm going to finish up that fourth one. This is going to give us a nice background for our rub-ons to get adhered to. Oh no, this is the last one. I'm so sorry. And in that stencil pack from Lawn Fawn, there's 2 stencils, so I did use both of them separately just to give them a little bit of a different look. Not that you notice these a lot, but I think you would notice if it wasn't there, if that makes sense. Let's start with our first card. So like I mentioned, I cut everything up before I showed you guys, because I was just planning out my cards ahead of time because I knew this was going to be a long video to begin with. So I'm going to start placing my images. I'm running it through my die cut machine instead of having to use the stick, especially on these big, huge images. And I still pull it up slow just in case a little piece did not stick down. Then I can start laying down some of my bigger pieces. And so we've got that cute hot cocoa sentiment. I love that. I think this one is my favorite card. And I will definitely want you to put in the comments what your favorite one is once I'm done with all 4. But I want to share how easy this is to do a layout on these cards. I think you definitely want some of these images to overlap each other. So that sentiment is overlapping part of that mug image. There's lots of different snowflakes. We've got blues and grays and browns and a darker green. I think this color palette is so pretty, and I'm going to turn these into Christmas cards by adding a Christmas sentiment. But if you think about it, these are perfect winter cards. Especially this one, like you could give this to someone that you love because it's got 2 hot chocolate mugs. You could do birthday cards with this, anniversary cards with this, whatever it is. It does not have to just be Christmas. I turned it into Christmas because of my sentiment. So you can see there, I was able to lay down a lot of images that were not overlapping with the release paper, and I could do them all at one time, and look at how cute that is. Okay, let's go to our next one. So first, let me go back. That other one, the hot cocoa one, said hot cocoa, and it says is like a hug from the inside. Sorry, apparently I can't read. This one here is Let It Snow. I'm going to place that down first. I think I tend to place all my sentiments down first and then kind of work around that, because if I want something, you know, in the right spot, but I might lay some things out ahead of time to make sure the sentiment is in the right area. Now this is just kind of an open background, and I'm going to bring in these cute mittens that's going to go on top of that once I get that bigger background in place. You can absolutely layer the rub-ons, and I say layer them. Let them overlap. It looks fantastic. I just am so addicted to these rub-ons. You know, if you guys have been following me, I've been doing more projects with rub-ons. The images are stunning. They are so detailed, and especially the vintage ones, I think are just so, so pretty. What an easy way to make a vintage card, really. Like, you don't have to color anything. You don't have to stamp anything. You can just put these on. I mean, you just kind of run it through your die cut machine. It's so fast. I'm going to add another little sentiment to this one that says Let's Chill on the top left. Make sure that's straight. And I did have a hot chocolate sentiment still left over, and I ended up not using it. There still is 2 more images that I did not use. There's a deer, and then just kind of a spray of greenery and pine cones, and that's really pretty too. And again, I'm so sorry for not showing you guys. I was getting way ahead of myself. I was very excited about making these cards. And I have to say, I had so much fun making these. I was kind of bummed when I was done. I should have made 2 more cards. I don't think I had enough sentiments for it because I'm using so many. I'm using multiple on each card. So I don't know. Maybe I need to buy another pack and make some more. Okay, let's go to this one. Now, this one has a really big sentiment. It says Winter Wonderland. I'm going to cut the winter off so I can actually put it somewhere else because it's kind of above the scripty line from the D, and I'm going to need to move that. So this is going to go, we're actually still going to have our card panel upright, vertical, And the sentiment's going to be running up and down because that's just how it's going to fit with the image that I'm going to put on here. So we've got some cute ice skates with a bunch of greenery and florals that's going to be added to that. I'm going to place that winter right there. Then I can add this other image because they're not, the release paper is not overlapping, so I can do it all at the same time. I knew it wasn't going to fit horizontally, so I knew I needed to do this vertically, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't have something covering up the sentiment so much that you couldn't read it. So there was a little place there on the left that I'm going to trim off because it was just kind of dark. But now I'm like, okay, this is perfect. It's okay if things are hanging off a little bit, because when you pull that release paper back, if anything's hanging off, you just kind of tuck it behind your piece of paper. There's also another sentiment that says chills and thrills, which I think is just really super cute. And I'm going to add that to the bottom. We've got some more snowflakes that I want to add. And you know, when you're all done laying this out, it looks like that's how it came. It doesn't look like you put it together, which I think is really awesome. And it makes it so easy. Like, I just don't think you can mess this up. What an easy, quick way to make cards. So I'm going to line up the chills and thrills. There's the little and sign that I'm going to put aside, and I will do that after I line those two up because, again, I don't want my release paper to overlap because then maybe my image won't stick as well. So I'm going to make sure that's lined up. And that back side is a little bit sticky, so it kind of adheres to your paper. So that is also something to be careful of when you are placing it around. If it adheres too much, it might pull off some of that image onto your paper where you don't want it. Pulling that release paper back, it reveals how cute that is. Let's put our little and sign in there. I think I do add some more snowflakes kind of towards the bottom on the left. And I'm just going to use the little popsicle stick. I'm like, I don't need to run it through the die cut machine for that little guy. So some of these I do that, but for most of it, I'm just running it through the die cut machine. Some of it stuck to my surface, but look at that big, beautiful snowflake. Oh, I love this one. This is my second favorite one for sure. I like the layout of this. I love the scripty font of the Wonderland sentiment. I think it's so pretty. Okay, let me just add a couple more and then we can get on to our last one. And you guys definitely want to hang out. I know it's a long video, but I've got some fun sparkle that we're going to add because it just totally fit this card. And then we're going to add some detail to that frame. Okay, I'm going to line up on this last card. This says beautiful. It has a snowflake. This didn't really have a sentiment to it so much. This just said beautiful and I loved it. It's in a pretty green. We're going to put this beautiful lantern here. And then there's another sentiment that that we're going to add to it. And I think it's so fun. It's a marshmallow world in the winter, which I think is so cute. So I'm going to add that one to this card panel. But you can see how this comes together nicely. The sentiment is going to overlap a little bit onto that. Again, I think that's a good idea. I think it's nice when you have some of the images overlap. It just feels cohesive. It feels like everything belongs. Nothing's just floating out by itself all the way, if that makes sense. So I'm going to figure out some of these snowflakes. Again, there's lots of different colors. There's blues and greens and kind of that minty color and some grays. And I'm trying to make sure that each card has that. This card has a lot of green in it, so I'm trying to bring in definitely a big blue snowflake. I want that on there. And then I'm going to add that one. That one's going to overlap some of that design on the lantern. And then we have that nice kind of minty one there. I think I have two minty ones on here. And I'm going to put that in place, and then I can run that through the die cut machine one more time and peel off all that release paper. And then we've got this gorgeous background. Oh, I just think it's so pretty. Okay, let's add some embossing with the Flurry of Snowflakes embossing folder from Spellbinders. I love this embossing folder. I think the snowflakes are gorgeous. Look at how beautiful that is. Now, some of that mica stain did come off just a little bit. I just sprayed it with some water and wiped it down. But this has such a metallic look to it, and the way the colors have mixed together, you guys, is absolutely gorgeous. I am just going to move my frames around a little bit differently. I don't want them to all look exactly the same. If I am mass producing things, I can't have it exactly the same. Otherwise, it's so boring to me. So doing something where it's a little bit different every single time is totally up my alley. So I'm going to turn this one, do it at the top. The next one, I'll turn it, put it at the bottom of the embossing folder. And then they all have a little bit of a different look as far as where the snowflakes are on the frame. I am going to stamp my sentiment. It's the same sentiment. It is from Honeybee Stamps. Oh gosh, I think I forgot to write it down. Like Happy Holidays something. I'll have it in the list in the description below. Will have everything linked, but it just says Merry Christmas. I am inking that up with Rustic Wilderness because that's the closest green to the green that was going on in the Rub-Ons. So I'm going to do that 4 times in my Misty. I'm trimming that out with a paper trimmer, and I am just going to use the leftover walnut stain on my little blender tool to very lightly add some color just to kind of get rid of the white because there's no stark white on this. So I'm just going to tone that down, and then we have our sentiments, and they are going to be popped up with some foam adhesive when we add them later. I did these really small ones because I love the background so much that originally I didn't even want to put a sentiment, but I'm like, you're not going to know that this is actually a Christmas card. So let's make a little sentiment. I'm using 2mm foam adhesive behind all of my frames. I'm just going to show you one, and I'm doing it on the very close to the inside. Because I did trim my A2 size card panels down smaller, about 1/4 or about 1/8 of an inch on all sides. And I flipped my frame over. I'm placing my card panel down and adhering it because I don't want to see my white card panel past the scallops, if that makes sense. So if I didn't trim my card base down, you would see white around the edge of the scallops, and I did not want that. Some tape runner behind our little pieces that we did all the rub-ons and everything to, and I'm just going to pop those right in the center, and look at how stunning these are. You guys, I'm so happy with how these turned out. You know, a lot of times you have an idea in your mind of what you think something's going to look like. Most of the time, my things do not come out looking the way I had planned, and usually not in a good way. But this time they came out way better than I thought, and I just am absolutely in love with these. Okay, let's pop our foam adhesive on. I am using 1mm. I want it to be slightly shorter than the frame because the frame is just absolutely gorgeous. Now let's add some really fun stuff. Once I get these all in place, I am trying to find a place that is not really taking up a lot of room. It's not covering up a whole bunch of the scenery that we've created, but we do have a nice little Merry Christmas sentiment. Okay, I'm taking some liquid glue, going on the inside edges, and I am sprinkling on mica flakes. And once the glue dries, because this is Artis glue from scrapbook.com, it dries clear. So make sure your liquid glue dries clear, which I think all liquid glue does for as far as paper crafting goes. You're just going to have the gorgeous mica flakes around the edge. So I did that for all 4 of them, and I'm going to show you here because this one dried quickly on this side. You cannot see the glue there, but you just have the gorgeous mica flakes framing the inside edge of the frame, and it looks so frosty and so perfect for these images and the kind of the theme of these cards. I am in love with it. So that hot cocoa one is my favorite. I mean, I love them all. I think they're all beautiful. But here you can see around the edges, it just has to dry. And in the photos that were at the beginning and the end of the video, you don't see any of that white. That completely goes away. I think this one is so pretty. I love that little sentiment at the bottom. It's a marshmallow world in the winter. I think that's so cute. And then this one is my second favorite. I just love that sentiment so much. These just turned out so good. So leave in a comment which one is your favorite. Let me know. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope you feel super inspired by these cards. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. If you do, give me a thumbs up. And if you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.